This is Lab 4 for the course EEL 4709C, Computer Design with Dr. Gang Kwan. And in this lab, we're going to focus on floating point numbers and computer arithmetic. And the objectives of this lab is to get familiar with assigned and unsigned integer representation and min and max values that can be represented. And then also, we're trying to get familiar with floating point representation format and to identify the scenarios for overflow and underflow in the MIPS computer arithmetic. So the first thing we had to do was to download this test4-1 S file and to basically describe what it's trying to do. And here is the code here. And by the looks of it, it is loading the values of x1, x2, y1, y2, and converting that into floating point registers in F0, F2, F4, F6. And then it's adding x1 to y1 and storing the results in the temporary register F6. It's also subtracting y2 from x2 and storing that as a temporary register. Now we move on to part 2 and what to do, and it is to create a MIPS assembly program that reads an input n from the user and outputs n's factorial. And then they want us to test this by using 5, 10, 15, and 20. So here is our code. We're first going to display a prompt for the user to enter the number n. After that, it's going to read that integer n. Then it's going to calculate the factorial of n through a factorial loop, which is going to keep counting as you go through increments. So let's say we go through we put n as 5. It's going to go 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, and then it's going to display the results after that. Okay, this big screen. And now let's test it. Let's see if it works. I have my calculator here just to make sure that the numbers are correct. Let's try 5 first. It should be 120. That's correct. Okay, let's do it. Run it again. 10. That's correct. And again. 15. Okay. And lastly 20. And I believe because the number is too big. Portion of the lab, which is to create the C program. And basically what the C program is going to be doing, um, it's going to print out my first and last name and my Panther ID. It is also going to print out the largest and smallest possible numbers that can be represented using assigned integer, along with their hexamal representations. It also is going to print out the largest and smallest possible positive floating numbers, along with the hexadecimal representations. These are like you can say like biggest and smallest numbers that you can write with a decimal point. And then yeah, here's the source code, and here is the result.